Have you ever noticed how easy it is to focus on what's right in front of you? And how difficult it is to think 10 years ahead? We all say long-term thinking matters. We talk about building for the future, making better decisions, playing the long game. Yet, in reality, most of our decisions are shaped by something else entirely. Deadlines, metrics, immediate results, and the quiet, relentless pressure to show progress now. So, here's the question that sits beneath all of that. If we know long-term thinking leads to better outcomes, why is it so rare? What if the challenge isn't intelligence? What if it's something far more invisible than that? What if it's the environment we are swimming in every single day? Because we are living inside systems designed for speed. Feedback is instant, results are visible, rewards are immediate. And over time, this begins to shape not just what we do, but how far ahead we are willing to look. This episode is about that tension, why long-term thinking is so difficult in a short-term world, and what it takes to operate differently. Welcome to The Strategic Thinker, TST for short. If you're a returning listener, thank you for being here. If this is your first time with us, I'm glad you found your way here. TST is a sanctuary for your mind, a calm space away from the noise where you can pause, think more deeply, and reset your direction. Every conversation here is designed to help you approach life, work, and decisions with more intention and more clarity. I'm Alan, your host. Let's dive in. Before we explore long-term thinking, it helps to understand the water we are all swimming in. Because most decisions don't happen in isolation. They happen inside systems. And modern systems are built for speed. Performance is measured frequently. Feedback arrives instantly. Results are expected quickly. In organizations, this looks like quarterly targets. In careers, it looks like visible progress. In daily life, it looks like constant notifications, updates, and reactions. The endless pool of what's happening right now. And over time, this shapes how we think. Slowly and quietly, attention shifts toward what can be measured today rather than what will matter in 5 years. And this shift, this subtle, almost invisible shift, doesn't come from a lack of intelligence. It comes from incentives, because incentives are powerful things. When the environment rewards immediacy, patience starts to feel unproductive. When results are closely tracked, experimentation starts to feel exposed. And when progress needs to be visible, long-term investment starts to feel almost impossible to justify. And so, gradually, the trade-offs begin. Direction gives way to speed. Depth gives way to activity. Compounding gives way to quick wins. That's what I call the speed trap. And here's what makes it so tricky. It rarely feels like a trap. It can feel like momentum. Because you are moving, because you are responding, because you are producing. And yet, beneath all that movement, something important is slowly changing. Your time horizon is getting shorter. Decisions become more reactive. Planning becomes compressed. And the future becomes something to address later. This is why long-term thinking is rare. Because it's hard to sustain in the world we are living in. Long-term thinking is not primarily an intellectual challenge. Most people understand why it matters. The real difficulty is behavioral. Just as we discussed, over time, your environment begins to train you through continuous reinforcement. You notice what gets attention, what gets rewarded, what gets acknowledged. And gradually, without ever making a conscious choice, your behavior follows. Choices start to align with what responds fastest instead of what matters most. It happens step by step until speed becomes the default. The pattern is subtle, which is exactly what makes it so dangerous, because it often feels like progress, but certain signals begin to appear if you start observing. You move quickly from task to task, and yet direction feels strangely unclear. Urgent things keep taking priority, even when something more meaningful is waiting, often quietly in the background. Completion happens often, but a genuine sense of progress? That feels distant. Decision with long-term payoff keeps getting pushed out. Just a little further. Just a little longer. Days feel full, but not always aligned. And at some point, you look up and wonder how you got here. Awareness changes everything, because once you see the pattern, a different question becomes possible. What direction am I actually moving toward? And from that question, we can begin to explore how real, lasting progress is built. Why the most valuable outcomes in life often takes far longer than we expect. And why that's not a problem to solve and a truth to embrace. Now, once you step outside the speed trap, a different reality comes into view. Progress does not always look like progress. Some of the most valuable things in life share one quiet characteristic. They compound. Skills compound, relationships compound, reputation compounds, health compounds, trust compounds. But compounding has one non-negotiable requirement, and that is time. And consistency within that time. So, this is where the tension lives. Because compounding feels slow at the beginning, effort goes in, results feel minimal, progress is hard to measure. Days pass with little visible change, and this is the phase where many people slowly disengage, simply because the feedback is slow. In a world conditioned for immediacy, slow feedback starts to feel like no feedback, and that creates doubt. Is this actually working? Am I making any real progress here? Should I change direction? Should I try something else instead? These questions are completely natural. I ask them myself from time to time, but they tend to appear right before compounding begins to show. Because compounding is not linear. It builds beneath the surface first, and then at a certain point it becomes visible. And when it does, it can look almost sudden. Yet what appears sudden is almost always the result of sustained, quiet effort over a long period of time. This is the part that's easy to miss. We see outcomes. We rarely see accumulation. And because of that, we consistently underestimate how long meaningful progress actually takes. There is a phase in every long-term pursuit where effort is real, but the results are not yet visible. You are showing up, you are improving, you are learning. But externally, very little seems to change. This phase requires a particular kind of discipline, consistency. The ability to keep going without immediate validation. The ability to trust the direction before the destination comes into view. The belief that you will gain valuable knowledge along the way no matter the outcome. And I think this is where long-term thinking becomes most practical. It's less about predicting the future. It's more about committing to a direction long enough for it to compound. Once you understand compounding, speed becomes less attractive. Consistency becomes more valuable. And the question then changes from how fast can I move to what is worth staying consistent with, even when the results take time to appear. With the speed trap understood and compounding in view, a final shift becomes possible. The way you make decisions begin to change because in a short-term environment, results tend to guide everything. What worked recently, what produced quick feedback, what looks effective right now. And this creates a pattern that's slowly limiting. Decisions become reactive, directions become secondary. Long-term thinking reverses that sequence. Direction should come first, and results will follow. Direction answers a different question. It answers, where am I trying to go? While it doesn't require perfect clarity, it does require enough clarity to guide your choices. Because when direction is clear, decisions become simpler. Some opportunities align, others fall away naturally. Some actions deserve your energy, others reveal themselves as distractions. And direction creates something else too, something that's often underestimated. Patience. When you know where you are heading, you become less dependent on immediate results for reassurance. Progress can be slow, learning can be uneven, results can take longer than expected. But the direction holds, and that changes everything. Strategic thinkers approach time differently. They optimize decisions for longer-term alignment. They ask, does this move me closer to the direction I've chosen? Sometimes the answer leads to action. Other times it leads to restraint. Because movement in the right direction is the ultimate goal. And the distinction matters more than it might seem. Because the difference between being busy and being purposeful, between doing a lot and building something real, the discipline shows up in choosing a direction and staying with it long enough for it to compound, adjusting when necessary without abandoning the direction too quickly, allowing the results to emerge rather than forcing them before they are ready. The speed trap pulls you towards immediacy. Compounding requires patience. Direction provides the stability between the two. Together, they form something simple, but not easy. See the environment clearly for what it actually is. Choose your direction intentionally. Stay consistent long enough for your effort to build into something real. That's it. And that's the work. But before we arrive at today's insight, there's something worth pausing on. Because understanding these ideas is one thing. Living them is something else entirely. Creating genuine space for long-term thinking. Inside a world that is pulling you in the opposite direction every single day, that doesn't happen automatically. It requires something more than knowledge. It requires self-belief. And the quiet discipline to keep following the direction you've chosen, even when the results haven't shown up yet, even when doubt creeps in, even when the easier path is right there. Because knowing does not equal doing. We already know many of the right answers. We know the importance of protecting our health, of moving regularly, of eating well, of actually resting. And yet, the pull in the opposite direction is always present. Convenience, comfort, the immediate reward that asks very little of us. These forces are not only external, they live inside us too. And that's where the real work begins. Not simply in understanding what matters, but in choosing it repeatedly when it isn't easy. There is real courage in that. There is a quiet dignity in showing up, especially when no one's watching and when the results are nowhere to be seen yet. That, perhaps, is a deeper conversation for another day. For now, awareness is where it starts. And once awareness is present, a different way of moving through the world becomes possible. And perhaps this brings us to the most important reflection of the day. It's about time and how we choose to use it. In a world designed for speed, long-term thinking is not a natural default. It's a deliberate choice. The environment always pulls you towards what is immediate, quick results, visible progress, constant activity. Yet the most meaningful outcomes in your life will follow a different rhythm entirely. They require time. They require consistency. They require direction. This is the tension we all live inside. Speed feels like progress. Compounding often feels invisible. Direction is what holds it all together. And instead of asking, how do I move faster? Try this question instead. What is worth staying consistent with, even when the results take time to appear? Because over the long run, it's not your fastest decisions that will define your life. It's the ones you stay committed to, even when it was hard to see why. Let's bring this home. Long-term thinking is not a complex concept. Most of us understand it. The real challenge is sustaining it. Inside an environment that is constantly, relentlessly designed for speed, we're surrounded by signals that reward immediacy. And over time, these signals shape how we think, often without us noticing. We begin to prioritize what feels productive now over what will matter later. That's the speed trap. And once you see it, and truly see it, you begin to have a choice. You can continue reacting to what appears in front of you, or you can step back and choose your direction more intentionally. Because meaningful progress rarely comes from intensity alone. It comes from consistency, from staying with something long enough for it to compound, from making decisions that still make sense beyond today. So, as you move into the days ahead, I want to leave you with 3 questions to sit with. Where in your life are you optimizing for speed when direction might matter more? What are you building that deserves more time than you've been giving it? And what would change, truly change, if you chose to stay consistent just a little longer? If you prefer to revisit today's ideas in writing, the compass is the published companion to each episode, a concise reference you can return to. You'll find it at maisontst.com. And if these conversations are adding something to your journey, the simplest way to make sure you never miss one is to follow the show wherever you listen. Think of it as reserving your seat in the sanctuary. As always, thank you for choosing to spend this time here with me. Your future self is being shaped by the choices you make today. Stay focused on your direction and take time to discover joy along the way. Until next time, make your next best decision and keep moving forward.